Hi everybody, welcome to our seed shed. It's December and we're already starting to plan for all of our spring vegetable starts. And this year we have upgraded into a seed shed. This is a 12 by 8 building. And it is, we had used it for beekeeping equipment, and John moved all of the beekeeping equipment into the barn so that we could repurpose this building for our seed shed. Yes, we did wallpaper the walls with foil colored plastic. It's an emergency heat blanket that you can get at Walmart or sporting goods stores. And what that does, it's going to reflect the light and let more light shine through. We are fortunate that the shed has 2 windows for natural light, but then we have all of these lights in here to start all the seeds. So let me show you a little bit of the anatomy of the shelves that we have. So each of these shelves is supported by wood. This is like a ladder, and we're going to show you a little bit more how to make them. So these are just fluorescent lights that you can get out of an office building. I bought them on Facebook Marketplace for $5 each. So the way the light comes is there's usually a piece of plastic that covers the light. Well, I took that plastic off of there, and now it's a space to rest the pans on, because if you look closely, I don't know if you can see that, there's little pokey holes for, I suppose, for screws or such, and if you don't have something on top of that, it will pierce the bottom of your trays. So each of these shelves will hold 4 trays, and just because the way our electric is set up right now, I have the heat mats over here. So these are just standard 10-20 trays, and each shelf will hold 4 trays. And so I start about 8 trays a week, or every 2 weeks. And then when they germinate, they move, and then I'll start more on these areas. Okay, so this is one of the lights that I purchased, and I have, this is exactly how I purchased it. This screen just pops up. That's when it's hanging in the ceiling. You can lower this to change the light bulbs, and it just hooks in. And so you want to remove this, and you want to be very careful because this plastic piece is called the lens, and it is easy to break. But I don't want this frame. This frame just gets in the way. So there's screws on the end that we're going to unscrew so that we can get the lens out of the frame. So we will just unscrew those. Usually, no, it's not. Sometimes you can just do it with unscrewing just one. Just pops off, and these kind of separate. And this is the lens that we will use to put on top of this when we set them in the room. Okay, so I'm going to just put that metal aside. Fortunate or not, that we live right on a highway, a very busy highway, and so oftentimes we can just put our scrap metal on the side of the road, and we have a neighbor that stops by, and he knows whenever he sees scrap metal that it's his, he can take it. So these are the fluorescent lamps that came with it, and they're made out of glass, so we have to be very careful with them. Again, these are something that we know somebody who will come and pick them up, that we recycle these. There's probably still decent life in many of these bulbs, and so somebody who has the fluorescent light fixture, they'll be able to use these. But I'm just setting those aside. And so now you see there's this big piece of metal here, and this is what is covering the ballast. So it's pretty soft metal, so you can really just kind of pinch it, and it just comes off. And again, that goes with the recycling. And then you have all of these wires, and I'll tell you, if you are not comfortable with dealing with things with electricity, hire a professional or find someone who does know what they're doing. I've been doing this quite a bit. I'm pretty comfortable with what I'm doing. So I'm not going to go into all of the details, but for now, all I'm going to do is cut the wires off of the ballast. And sometimes you can take this ballast out. I can't for right now because it's bolted in. Sometimes it's just screwed in. And when it's screwed in, I'll just pull it out. So these will all get rewired so that we can put the LED lights in there. Okay, so now that this is done to where we needed an empty one so that we can go ahead and set up the frames, the support legs, because this is the width of it. Okay, so to build the frames, the first thing you need are 4 pieces of 2x4 that are cut to the length. What I did with these, I made sure I marked the top of each one, and then I measured lines about 1 foot apart. And those lines are where our shelves are going to go. So then the next thing I did is I took a 2x4 and I took a small piece of 2x4, and these are going to go here. So I have one more of these supports to build. So what I did is on the 2x4s, I marked the center of each one, and I'm using this little board as a spacer. And I'm just lining up the lines and lining up the spacer, and then I'm just going to screw right into it. Make sure it's nice and square. It's not a super important thing that this is square. So what I did is I cut a piece of wood. So that's going to be the space in between these two. And we're going to take, so I know what's the top, we're going to take these and line them up here so that this piece that sticks out on the top will always be on the top. So I'm just going to start, I probably should move this all. And I'm going to just start at the bottom and work my way up. Now, it's important to get these as square as possible because we're building on a tabletop. We want to make sure that when we stand this up, that it can be as plumb or level as possible. So I'm using a T-square. So I'm using a T-square to make sure that this support is at a right angle from this leg. So I'll screw this side in, and then when I come to this side, I'll do the same thing again. Maybe not. So if you ever do this and it twists, you always have to start a new hole, because if you put it in the same hole, it will twist the same way. Okay, so the first side is all done. All the horizontal supports are screwed in with 2 screws to one of the vertical supports. So now I'm going to make sure that the bottoms are as even as possible, and then we're going to secure it to the other vertical post. Vertical post. And I'm going to need more screws. So I created a jig. I just cut a piece of wood at the space that I wanted between my legs, as you were. And so I'm just going to put that in, make sure it's nice and tight, and then make sure this is level, or not level, but square. And it's really close. There we go. So in order to get this horizontal square with this leg, I'm going to have to push it in some. It's still square on this side, so this board here might be a little bit wonky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw these in partially. And then pull my square up. All right, so I'm using this hand to put the wood where I want it to be. And just like that, it's square. Okay. And this one's just a little bit off also. So these are starting to get a little tighter. So I'm going to take this and put it all the way at the end. So my two legs are a little bit warped. They're trying to go in a bit like that. So I took the support and I put it all the way at the top so that it will keep the correct distance. I'll take my square. Let's square there. And again, not square here. Okay, so just like before, I'm going to drill them in partial way. There you go. So you might ask, why does this have to be level? Why am I spending so much time making sure that everything is as straight as possible? That's a really good question. We're going to put plants on here and we're going to put seedlings. And the way we propagate seedlings and seeds is we bottom water. So if I put a ½ inch of water, a ¼ inch of water in the tray, and the tray is nice and perfectly level, all of the seedlings will have access to that water. If it's a little cattywampus, then one side will get 1 inch of water and the other side will get no water. And so your seeds will not germinate as evenly as possible. Now that can be when you put the heat mat under, it kind of makes a little bit of difference. There's a lot of little things that can adjust how level the trays are, but if I can start at this level here and get it as level and plumb as possible, then it will avoid me having to constantly fix mistakes once the seedlings get started. And just like that, one leg is finished. If you look behind me, we finished the other one already. And so we're going to take these into the seed shed. We're going to put some angle braces on them so that they're nice and sturdy. And then we will start installing some of the lights and show you how we do that. So this new frame, this new shelf we're going to put is going to go right where I'm standing. We have to put some supports across the backside. So before we do that, we're going to build it kind of in the middle and then put the supports on it. And then we'll push it into place. And the lights are 4 feet wide, but in order to make it perfect so that we don't have to measure twice, we're going to use the light itself as a support, as the measurement. So we'll just move a shelf here. I'm going to bring the other light in. And we want the electric to be on that side. So we're just going to put it right on that little cleat on the bottom on this side. And then this is a little bit awkward. I've got the top of the shelf. Okay, is that good? So once we get this all in, see how the legs want to go this way and that way, and that's why we're going to put the support in, and we're going to get this as level as possible. Again, everything needs to be as level as you can. This floor is so unlevel. It's actually from the left side of this shelf to the right side of this shelf, it's a 1/2 inch different. So we took that into account when we made the legs. We made the legs a 1/2 inch difference on the bottom so that they would be level. Okay, so we're getting the second one, and we're going to put that all the way at the top, and that will help square this up somewhat. Okay, ready? Yeah. Okay, so we have a light down on the very bottom and then one in the middle, and that way we know our distances are correct, and you can see it's still pretty wobbly. So we're going to install a support, 2 different supports, one straight and one on an angle across the back, so that it will be nice and square and plumb and level and as close to perfect as we can get it. So, do you have the supports and the screws are here? Do you need? Okay, so here's a close-up of a little bit better of what we did here. We have the metal light. We have these little ladders with the cleats that are pointing up, and then we put these 2 supports on it. So you see with just these two lights are all that's on it, it's in there pretty sturdy. So the next step is to finish installing the rest of the lights, and then I'm going to have to come in and do all of the electricity, so we won't actually get it into place at this point. So what I did is I retrofitted each of these to accept LED lights instead of the fluorescent, and then I wired them to be able to use an extension cord that I cut the plug end or the receiving end off, and I just plugged it into a light. I'm not an electrician. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but there's lots of YouTube ways that do it, and these will get wrapped in electrical tape, and I always leave them with the point up, so that because this is going to be a wet environment, I'll be spraying to water these, and if any water by chance gets it, it won't fall into these little holes. So that's what I'm doing now. I usually string 2 together on one extension cord, and that's why I have these power cords, but we're going to change all of that to make it much more efficient, and maybe next year we'll have them all permanently hardwired.